all of these flights who are coming into the United States of America, presumably to help people in desperate need. What do we know about them now?
So, yeah, really briefly, back in January of 2023, in an attempt to hide the massive chaos at the southwest border, the Biden administration launched something called CHNV Parole: Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela. And the idea was, Vince, that it would fly 30,000 nationals of those four countries into the United States monthly, 360,000 per year. And the idea was that if we did that, that we would stem the tide of people coming from those four countries who are coming illegally. And the gloss on this was not, of course, the Biden administration couldn't say we're hiding the disaster at the border. So it was to give these individuals an opportunity to apply for humanitarian protection, asylum. And, to be fair, those four countries have more than their fair share of problems. But here's the issue that we've discovered. A number of months ago, the center asked for the arrival airports that these people would fly into. Now, keep in mind, Vince, these people aren't going to a port of entry at the southwest border. They're not showing up at Laredo. They're flying directly into the United States, including into Dulles, including into BWI, but, mostly into Miami International Airport, flying from all over the world. So we found out some of the arrival airports, and Chairman Green over at the House Homeland Security Committee filled in a lot of those blanks. But we also asked for the names of the departure airports that these folks were flying from. And I'm not going to lie to you, Vince. We got a lot of pushback from Biden's DHS and Biden's DOJ about getting that information. But we broke through. And what we discovered was that those folks aren't coming from those four countries, Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela. They're coming from 77 countries, including Iceland, Poland, France, Germany, South Africa, Australia, to come to the United States. These folks were never going to cross the border illegally. They saw a good thing and they took it. And, I can't blame them.
Wait, how do we have Cubans flying in from South Africa? How does that make sense?
So this is the thing, and it's important to note the fact that, these four countries have their fair share of problems and have for decades.
Uh-huh.
And consequently, the people who live in those countries went to move someplace else. That's the whole idea behind international immigration. And so they would go to a place where they could live, they could work, they could make money and send it back home. And, that includes South Africa. That includes Kenya, Egypt, Turkey. Yeah, so that's really what's happened. And, this Biden program was never specific to people actually living in those countries.
But if you're living in the Bahamas, why would you have to fly to America for humanitarian protection?
And that's the key. And I can tell by the question you already know the answer. You don't. And it, undermines the key tenet of this program, that it is some sort of humanitarian program. Again, they're coming in on that same parole power that the Biden administration has been abusing since day one, that about, 1.9 million people have been allowed to enter on. When you come in on parole, Vince, you automatically get work authorization. If you're from Cuba and Haiti, you automatically get all your means-tested public benefits, Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, all of those things. They don't need humanitarian protection if they're flying from Norway, which they are. You really are just looking for a trade up when it comes to economic betterment.
You're looking for a trade up. That's a good way to put it. How do we know that these people are actually from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela? Is there a way to be sure that they are from those countries?
Well, now that's the $64,000 question, because we don't really know what the Biden administration does to vet these people. They contend that they're all thoroughly vetted. They, put like rigorous vetting or something like that on there, and they all have to have a sponsor in the United States. Ideally, they all have documents, validly issued documents from these countries, and that establishes it. But there's so little visibility into this system, Vince. It's a distinct possibility that's being abused by people who aren't nationals of those four countries.
Right, because elsewhere across our so-called immigration system, we do see quite a bit of abuse and fraud, don't we?
Oh, yeah, no. Fraud has always been an aspect of immigration. I don't say that in a bad way. It's just true. But, I certainly saw plenty of it when I was a prosecutor. I saw plenty of it when I was a judge. Saw plenty of it on Capitol Hill. But this these
Wait, on
particular
Capitol Hill,
programs,
related to immigration?
yeah, when I was oversight counsel for immigration, and when I was national security staff director at House Oversight,
Oh.
looked at numerous fraud programs. No, there's no fraud on.
Oh, I thought you were
Right,
talking about
that's
Ilhan
true.
Omar for a moment. I was like, well, tell us more. Okay, I got it. When you were working on Capitol Hill.
No. Far from it, and I don't want to answer any more hard questions the next time I'm up there. But but yeah, I mean, this is a fact of life in immigration. And, one of the ways that we address that is by having rigorous vetting, by detaining people who come here who don't have a right to be here. In the course of that immigration court system, we can ferret out a pretty fair amount of fraud. When you're just cutting people loose, which the Biden administration has been doing in the millions, there's no way to identify them.
So first of all, thank you for this reporting. It's excellent. And I do want to ask you about another aspect of what's going on with our immigration system. I keep seeing reports that Biden is set to announce a massive amnesty of some kind this week, reportedly developing a large-scale plan to provide legal status to illegal aliens. This is supposed to give amnesty to hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens who have married American citizens. Anchor spouses. What can you tell us about this?
Sure. And the Biden administration has been teasing this. This was actually reported in the Wall Street Journal about a month ago, and I wrote it up then. You can go to CIS.org and just type in parole in place. Because this particular new amnesty is parole in place. It's for people who are in so-called mixed status families, where one person is an alien who entered the United States illegally and the other is a United States citizen. If that alien were here and it entered lawfully, they could get a green card through the adjustment program, but they can't do that unless they leave the United States since they entered illegally. So they have to enter legally in order to gain access to that. But there is a slight loophole, and that loophole is for anybody who's been paroled into the United States. Again, Vince, when we're talking about parole, it's supposed to be one person or two people, maybe 10 or 20 people a month. But the Biden administration has been using parole, as in CHNV, as with the CBP One app, where you pre-schedule your illegal entry into the United States, has been using it on an industrial scale. So this particular idea would, allow the magic immigration ferry to fly over these people, put a little parole in place dust on them, and automatically make them eligible to adjust their status in the United States. We're not talking about a couple hundred. We're talking about 1.1 million people.
Is it that many? Wow. I'm on 1. I've seen hundreds of thousands. I didn't realize it was even that big. 1.1 million. So there you go. Big amnesty being cooked up ahead of Election Day. And I love the phrasing around this issue. They call these people undocumented spouses. As I recall, when you get married, typically you need a document to demonstrate that, a marriage license. I guess something different is going on with so-called undocumented spouses.
Yeah, speaking of fraud, look for a load of fraud in this program, because marriage fraud has long been a fact of life. Back when we had a responsible immigration program, we would have vigorous investigations before we gave green cards to people who claimed that they got married. And again, as a prosecutor, as a judge, I saw plenty of marriage fraud. But yeah, I mean, this is going to open the door to a massive fraud. And there's really nothing that the Republicans can do about this program unless they have a significant amount of will, because this is a very sympathetic population. If you say, no, you can't do this, they're going to say you don't like families and you want to break up families. In fact, Vince, patent that phrase right now, because you're going to hear it during both presidential debates coming up.
I'm sure it's coming. Marriage fraud. Why does that make me think of Ilhan Omar again? I don't know. Anyway, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Andrew Arthur at the Center for Immigration Studies. Good to talk to you today, sir.